If Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria falls to a rebel offensive, Russia will lose its only military base in the Mediterranean. This could have dramatic consequences for Russian efforts in Ukraine, writes the Telegraph's military commentator David Axe. He noted that the rebels had already captured the country's largest city, Aleppo, and were approaching the important city of Hama. If the anti-government forces were to capture Hama, they would have the prospect of advancing towards the Mediterranean coast, to the Latakia region, where the only Russian naval base on the Mediterranean Sea is located in the port city of Tartus. Moscow has used the base since the 1970s. In 2017, Russia and Syria signed a 49-year contract that gives Moscow even greater access to Tartus. It was from here that several Russian ships sailed into the Black Sea before the full-scale attack on Ukraine. As David Axe notes, without modern, reliable ships capable of withstanding long sea voyages, Russia is forced to rely on coastal sailing of its fleet from port to port. And the base in Tartus is important in this regard. The loss of Tartus would be catastrophic for Russian power projection in southern Europe and North Africa. Realistically, the only way for the Kremlin to replace the vital coastal infrastructure at Tartus is to restore access to the Mediterranean via the Bosphorus, closed to the Russian Navy because of the war in Ukraine, the Observer notes. According to Axe, having lost Tartus, the Kremlin may face a difficult choice: continue to fight in Ukraine and lose influence in the Mediterranean region, or make peace with Ukraine and unblock the Turkish Straits for its fleet. As reported, Syrian rebels have approached Hama, an important city on the Damascus-Aleppo highway. Hama was taken under government control at the very beginning of the civil war and has remained an important stronghold of the Assadites for the past 13 years. If the rebels capture it, this could put the Assad regime in an extremely difficult position. Meanwhile, more and more evidence is appearing online about the rich military trophies that the rebels have captured in less than a week of the offensive. In particular, several anti-aircraft systems and many tanks have fallen into the hands of the Islamists. A real drubbing of the Russian army is underway in Syria. A lot of bases and equipment have been captured, including the Pantsir S-1. Putin is constantly changing generals there, but with those who failed in Ukraine. Russian propagandists say that the defense intelligence of Ukraine was involved in Syria. Ukrainian military expert, pilot instructor and retired colonel of the Ukrainian armed forces, Roman Svitan, said this. According to Svitan, it is possible that Ukrainian defense intelligence was involved in Syria. After all, we have mechanisms for assistance there, for example, by indicating targets. This is what they are best at. However, the question remains, what will happen next? Because there are many currents in Syria. Some are even mutually opposing, so they can also clash with each other. Syria can be a serious second front, which is currently in the world. The first is ours, so this is the second. Roman Svitan emphasized. These actions are helping us now because the Russians have to be distracted, including their aviation. Recently, planes have hardly landed there, but are trying to stop these offensive actions, the military expert added. Russia has begun withdrawing ships from the naval base in Tartus, Syria, following the rapid advance of Islamist rebels across Syria, which dictator Bashar al-Assad's army has been unable to contain. Naval News reports. According to the publication, the tanker Yelnya, which is important for maintaining Russian forces in the Mediterranean, left Tartus. Other ships could have left the base with it. In total, the Russian naval group in Syria consists of 5 ships and 1 submarine. These include 2 Admiral Gorshkov-class frigates, 1 Admiral Grigorovich-class frigate, an improved Kilo-class submarine, and 2 auxiliary vessels. There is a real possibility that the withdrawal is related to the deteriorating situation in Syria, writes naval analyst Droxford Maritime. After the withdrawal of Russian ships, the naval base in Tartus may be abandoned, and Russia will most likely send the ships to the Baltic Sea, Naval News believes. Along the way, they may stop in Algeria or Libya. At the same time, if Russia decides to take the base in Tartus, it will have to send large reinforcements there, but it will take weeks to transfer them, Naval News emphasizes. The naval base in Tartus on the Mediterranean coast of Syria is a strategic facility for Russia. The Soviet Navy was based there since 1971, but after the collapse of the country, the ships were withdrawn. Russian troops returned to Tartus in 2012 when Moscow decided to intervene in the civil war in Syria and sided with dictator Bashar al-Assad. Before the invasion of Ukraine, Russia strengthened its military presence in Tartus to counter NATO aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean.
هاي شباب امان 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 فوت فوت فوت